Focus. Ideate. Innovate. Enable.
Forbes India presents Legal Powerlist 2020 in association with LegitQuest.
Hello and welcome to Forbes India presents Legal Powerlist 2020 in association with LegitQuest. I'm Mridu Bhandari. This is a first of its kind unique initiative that aims to identify, recognize and honor some of India's finest lawyers, law firms and law schools that exemplify distinction and demonstrate superior leadership. As a curtain raiser to the Legal Powerlist 2020, today I'm in conversation with eminent stalwarts from the legal fraternity. We're going to be talking about the need for judicial reforms in India and the need to serve justice at a much faster pace. We're also going to be learning lessons about building a great law firm and using emerging technologies like artificial intelligence and data analytics to increase the efficiency of the legal systems. Let me welcome my experts for today. Justice A K Sikri, International Judge, Singapore International Commercial Court and former judge of the Supreme Court of India. Raian Karanjawala, Managing Partner of Karanjawala Company. Venkatramani, Senior Advocate of the Supreme Court of India and former member of the Law Commission of India. And Kalia, founder and CEO of LegitQuest, which is in fact a deep tech data platform that is building research and analytics products for legal professionals. Welcome, gentlemen. Thank you very much for joining us here today. The year 2020 has been unprecedented on many fronts, and courtrooms are no exception. Justice Sikri, COVID-19 has changed the way the judiciary functions, from open courts to hearings via video conferencing. It's definitely a first for India. What are the big challenges according to you? And does this lead to a decline in the quality of courtroom activity, or would you say that this is somewhat making the process faster?
As we all know, this COVID pandemic has brought so many challenges for us. And as I say, it has affected the lives because people are dying, livelihood, many people are getting unemployed, and lifestyle. Now, it had affected so many commercial and other economic activities, governmental activities, etc. from time to time. And we have been trying to come back to normal, in the new normal, if I say so. This has affected justice delivery system as well. And therefore, although initially the courts were also locked down when the lockdown took place, and we used to have only physical hearing. But if I may say so, the silver lining in all this, insofar as judicial reforms are concerned, was that we had to adapt the technology to a greater extent. And we had no alternative but to go to virtual medium of hearings. And therefore, the hearing started virtually, and which has been the phenomena which is taking place even till date. But then there are challenges as well. Number one is that reach of the technology, because we are a very vast country. It's not only the Supreme Court or the high courts or high courts in the metropolitan cities. There are high courts which are smaller high courts, and mufassal courts and district courts at remote places, which may not be having this technology. But what I would say that these challenges are there, but then the Supreme Court is working on this. Suo moto notice, which was taken in the beginning itself, in April itself by the Supreme Court, and thereafter many orders have been passed from time to time. We have to imbibe, we have to adopt this technology, we have to overcome the glitches and ultimately reap the benefits of this technology.
Let me also bring in Mr. Karanjawala. What would you like to add to that? Are virtual courtrooms really here to stay in the long term? How do you envision the judiciary in the post-COVID-19 world?
First of all, I do feel that in the past, as far as the handling of the pandemic is concerned, the courts have done an admirable job. Now the question is, what will be the next normal? Now, what is a virtual hearing? What does it really do? What are its advantages? I remember when the first satellite phone, Iridium, came out, it was advertised with one simple slogan. It said, geography becomes history. That's what virtual hearing does. It eliminates distance, it saves time. And that is what I think the court should utilize while going forward into what we call the next normal. So, for example, I envisage a system in which perhaps potentially 1 day every 2 weeks, the courts can set aside, for example, in the Supreme Court, only for virtual hearings. So everybody who's coming in from outside Delhi, and there are a lot of people in the Supreme Court who do that, come in on that particular day, and therefore lawyers functioning in different parts of India get an occasion to directly address the Supreme Court. So virtual hearing can be a great aid, a great tool to the judiciary in meeting the head-on problem that it has of handling its areas.
Mr. Venkatramani, I want your opinion on this one. Sometimes there are scathing opinions by the general public on social media. What do you have to say about the criticism that the judges or the judicial system in general faces on public platforms or social media platforms?
I think there is no option but to continue to live in an open society. The benefits of an open society are not to be measured by any legal or other standards. But then social media is an unowned media. It is like a speech and expression commons. Therefore, virtually it appears that people do not have a sense of responsibility about what they want to speak and how they want to communicate. Generally, I've seen in social media the kind of language people uses, the quality of expression, and the aggressive manner in which people also wish to communicate to each other. Something which goes to the root of the culture of using a media, which is now a godsend to us. So therefore, we need to develop a more higher level of a culture in using a media where nobody wants it, but then everybody wants it. I think it's therefore important that the first milestone to be crossed is the cultural milestone as to how one can responsibly use the social media. If that is not really understood, I think then it is useless to talk about picking up individuals who seamlessly cross the limits of this responsibility.
The emergence of technology really in every field has been unprecedented, especially in this year because of the nature of the pandemic that we've been in. And I want Karan to step in here as well. Karan, your platform, LegitQuest, is in fact applying deep tech like artificial intelligence, like data analytics, and breaking down legal data like never before. So give us a sense of what technology can achieve for problems like, pendency that need immediate solving. How can platforms like yours really increase efficiency and save time for legal professionals?
You see, there is a multi-pronged approach to use of artificial intelligence in reducing the pendency. So LegitQuest has developed a technology called the iDraft technology, which means that we have developed a technology which reads through the case laws and documents. It takes out the issue, facts, arguments of petitioner, argument of respondent, reasoning and decision of a case law. Now, if more accuracy and more precision is put to that, it can be applied to the pleadings filed by the lawyers in the court. Now, how it will help the reducing the pendency is that every time anyone is transferred, the intellectual property of that case is on a single click still there with the court. So the new judge comes in, he looks at a case which is 2 years old with thousands of documents. They will not be discouraged to look at that case and decide. We are working on a technology of predicting outcome. So imagine that as a government officer, assessing officer, or a prosecution lawyer, I have the predicting of outcome that this factual scenario will give me only a 30% chance of winning the case. Now, from the government end, it's a very big thing that you will put the motion of the government resources in place when you only have 30% chance of winning, which means that you are actually starting off litigation for many years to come and resources and time. If we are able to develop that technology and put it in use for the government department, they will take a call that we don't have to file an appeal into this matter because the chances of winning are less. And the onus of any issues with the assessing officer also reduces. Otherwise, the government officials will say that, why did you not proceed with that appeal? That's a very important thing that we're developing, because they need to have database to substantiate.
The Legal Powerlist 2020 is a first of its kind initiative where we are recognizing and honoring some of India's best lawyers, law firms, and law schools, and putting the spotlight squarely on the legal fraternity. So if you're a member of the fraternity, go ahead, nominate yourself, nominate your peers, your firm, or even your law school. And you can find all the details regarding categories and the application process on www.legalpowerlists.com. So Karan, let me first ask you, what was the thought behind this initiative? What are you trying to achieve with it, and why is this unique?
Basically, the idea was to bring the best brand in the world, which is already there in a lot of other sectors, which is Forbes. Forbes has a lot of credibility. They're impartial, very reputed across the world. And LegitQuest really thought that why should we not go and approach the best in the world to felicitate the quality service, the superior leadership, distinction in practicing for the lawyers in the country. Through this platform, what we really wanted to achieve was to bring everyone a level playing field in the achievements that they have done throughout in the last 18 months. There are categories like below 10 years and above 10 years, so you can apply in either of the categories, and also to bring about a level playing field for all the lawyers in the country.
Right. Well, thank you for those kind words about Forbes India. And of course, the Legal Power List 2020, like you said, aims to honor the best of the best amongst the legal fraternity. Mr. Karanjawala, what does it really take to get to the top? Now, yours is a firm that is recognized amongst the best, especially for litigation. What, according to you, does it take to really build a great law firm? And in context of the Legal Power List 2020, how important is recognition of any kind for, lawyers, law schools, law firms, for all the effort that they really put in?
So in my view, there are 4 things that you have to look at when you assess a particular firm. First, I'll just enumerate them and I'll then expand on it. Longevity, reputation, impact, continuous growth. So first, longevity. A firm that lasts for 5-10 years and then breaks into 2 or 3 just can't make the cut. To be an established law firm, you have to just stay the course for a certain minimum period of time. So that's first, that's longevity. Secondly, reputation. People, when they look at you, must see an integrity of purpose. People, when they come to you and take your advice, must find 2 things. One, that the advice that you give them will be thoughtful, will be measured. But more important, the advice that you give them will be advice which is in their interest and not in your interest. The client should never walk away from a firm thinking, well, he asked me to go to court, but I don't know whether that's because it benefits him or because it benefits me. The third thing is impact. You have to have an impact. So you can't just say, well, I done these 3-4 big cases last year. I charged a huge amount of fee in each one of them, and I'm very good. No, you must do high quality work, but equally you must do a lot of work. You must do bulk work. It must have an impact. People must feel your presence. And the fourth is, of course, that you have to have continuous growth. Because unless you're growing all the time, you're not just going to be able to meet the competition. Every time when you look behind your back, you'll find the guy is much closer. Your number 2 is much closer to you than you thought he was. So that is, according to me, what are the tests of a good firm.
Right. Okay. Now, the assessment time frame for the Legal Power List 2020 is from 1st of April 2019 to 30th of September 2020. Mr. Venkatramani, some of them often feel that, awards or recognition always go to the more well-known, the more famous legal professionals or firms, and those seem to have a higher chance of making it to lists like these. What would you like to say to them? Should they hesitate to apply for Legal Power List 2020 and platforms like that?
I think it's important that the initiative Karan has is taken will probably take us to a larger area where these issues of open competitions on the basis of ability to compete on the basis of ethics, commitment, and social justice becomes more important. And as long as I think they take the background, these issues will continue to be just talked about. I think, therefore, I would advise that whether or not you have reached somewhere, I think you must come into the open space of getting recognized. And I think that's the way you'll start doing more productive, useful, and socially relevant work.
Well, the Legal Power List 2020 also has a category for law schools. So let me ask you, Justice Sikri, beyond the textbook laws that, of course, every law school teaches you, what separates, the good from the great, from perhaps the most exemplary institutions? And does India need more of the exemplary institutions as far as law is concerned?
We have to see the landscape in which we are working, our legal system, because in law schools, we are producing future lawyers in this country. And it's not only today only lawyers. We have, because the law graduate can join not only law firms, corporate practice, also in-house counsel they can become, and there are so many other fields open to a law student. So therefore, keeping in mind, that is one thing. Another is, I would say, globalization, which is taking place, and the litigation is becoming international, whether these are commercial arbitration is concerned, or even intellectual property matter, patents, etc. concerned. There space law and other, even banking and insolvency laws, they are all having now transnational impact. So keeping in view this, the law school has to take care of all these needs. I have seen now as a judge in Singapore International Commercial Court and doing some international arbitrations as well. The Indian lawyers are no less. They are trying to compete and all, but then now it becomes the role of law schools also to take into consideration all those needs and make lawyers of both kinds. So therefore, all these qualities have to be there in a law school to give this kind of training to our lawyers, or future lawyers.
Right. Okay. So, Karan, let me come to you then. Give us a sense of what the jury and the selection process for the Legal Power List 2020 is going to look like. How difficult is the selection criteria going to be? And really, who should be applying for this?
Sure. So I'll start with who should be applying. So we have 6 different categories. It's the top 50 managing partners, top 50 law firms, top 100 lawyers, top 50 general counsels, and then top 25 in-house counsels, and top 25 law schools. So these are 6 categories. And you can apply either in below 10 years experience or above 10 years experience. And then for top 50 law firms and top 100 lawyers, we have separate 40 practice area to apply in. So we have specifically designed that so that anyone who thinks that they're good in 3 or 4 practice area, they can also apply in that, can nominate themselves. So the selection process and nomination and applying process is very simple. You go onto the website, thelegalpowerlist.com, you apply there, you tell us the question. When you start applying, there's a registration form in which you start answering the questions there. We look at the achievements for the last 18 months. So once the nomination is received, the team then checks for the completeness of the form, and then thereafter it will be sent to the jury members. Then the jury will have a state-of-the-art software at their disposal, a dashboard, wherein they will be able to score each and every applicant that they get. At the moment, every application will be scored out of 100, and at least 3 jury members would be rating one application. Each application will go to at least 3 jury members, and we will have around 20 to 25 jury members for this power list. Then the consolidated score of all the nominees would then be put in, and the top shortlisted candidates will be announced in the first or second week of February. Now, after announcement of the shortlisted candidate, the next process is, again, it will be followed by another jury round, which will then pick up the top 50, top 100, and the top 25 in different categories. But one question which will be there and which will have a great assessment selection criteria would be for all the different categories. I can tell you now that it will be that how did they manage the COVID situation as a managing partner, as a law firm, as a law school? How did they go about it? And of course, the assessment criteria, as pointed out by Justice Sikri, Mr. Venkatramani, and Mr. Karanjawala, for different categories.
Okay, great. Well, we're completely timed out on this conversation, but I'm going to give 30 seconds to each one of you for leaving us with that one message, especially for lawyers, law firms, or anyone who's wishing to get into the legal system in these unprecedented times in particular. Mr. Karanjawala, if I can start with you.
Well, to the law student who is just beginning his career in law, what I would say is, when you look for a place to start, don't look at the air-conditioned office. Don't look at the place which gives you the best amount of money. Go to the place where you will be busy. Go to the place where you will be kept the busiest. That will give you an advantage.
Right. Sound advice there for young lawyers and law firms. What about you, Mr. Venkatramani?
I'm just reminded of a famous statement made by Adam Smith in his book Wealth of Nations. He was talking about the invisible hand while talking about the baker, the booker, the candle maker. He says it is not from their benevolence that we get what we want, but from their self-interest. And a famous writer called Cronman, writing about that book in a book called Lost Lawyer, he says the legal profession is not the butcher, the baker, and the candle maker. It is their social commitment and their commitment to social ordering which makes them part of a very important connection to the society. Therefore, my advice to young lawyers, as well as those who are pursuing the studies of law, is that let us not think ourselves in the place of the baker, butcher, and the candle maker. We are something far, far more than any of them.
Right. Justice Sikri, your message to the stakeholders of the judiciary for the future?
When I joined profession, my father was also a lawyer. He gave me the book, autobiography of a former attorney general, where he had written that you may be a brilliant student. As a student, you may be a gold medalist. But if you can't work hard, don't join this profession. It is not the number of years which you put in this profession which make you a senior lawyer or a bigger lawyer. It is the number of hours and minutes each day which you put in this profession.
Karan, final message from you.
My learned seniors have already stated all the good things that are needed. But I'll just say one quote that Mr. Jethmalani used to often say in speeches. He used to say that democracy without education is like hypocrisy without limitation. So I personally really feel that this profession of ours needs to be, we regularly have to unlearn, learn, and relearn. It's a profession in which we have to keep learning new things as we go forward.
All right, gentlemen, thank you very much for joining us for this very exciting conversation and sharing your views on the Indian judicial system. Once again, I'd like to remind our viewers, especially from the legal fraternity, about applying for the Legal Powerlist 2020, an initiative that aims to recognize and felicitate the best lawyers, law firms, general counsels, in-house counsels, and law schools of India. You can find all the details at www.legalpowerlists.com. Please do log in and nominate yourselves. Thank you very much for joining us today. Goodbye.
Forbes India presents Legal Powerlist 2020 in association with LegitQuest.
Focus. Ideate. Innovate. Enable.